Hi everyone, it's Holly Marie King, and we are back with the Emblem Knights final draft. Now, I know there was a little bit of a mistake on the first one, but you know, self-editing, not perfect. But yeah, anyway, this is gonna be, sorry, excuse me. Excuse me. This will be my last one that I'm gonna post on, my channel. Oh my god, I can't spell. On my Holly Marie King channel. If you're interested in oh my goodness. Hold on. Am I good? Oh my god. Hi everyone, it's Holly Marie King, and we are back with Emblem Knights final draft. I'm just letting everyone know this is going to be the last Emblem Knights I'm going to post on my Holly Marie King channel. There is an herbology channel. There will be a explanation on the name of herbology on that one later on when things are finally starting to go. But yeah, let's just jump in and go to the next chapter. I'm excited. Okay, chapter 2, a nice change of pace. The porch of the home was a nice comfortable setting with only 4 chairs to sit on. It led to the door that opened up into the spacious one-story house. Daisuke set the bag he was carrying down on the floor next to the door and ushered the other 3 inside. To the left of the door was a dimly lit sitting area where many different weapons were hung up on the walls, for decorations, with a fireplace built into the wall underneath. Straight across from the door was the kitchen, with enough counter space for 5 people to prepare meals at one time. Yuri's grandfather was immediately headed in that direction. To the right of the kitchen was the dining area, with a surprisingly large table for only 4 people to sit at one time. Okay. There were stools that were at the counters, but it was still strange for such a large home to have such a small dining area. Yuri went off to the weapon area, already having seen enough of the house. She was curious about all the weapons that were in the room. In between the kitchen and the sitting area was a hallway that led to many different rooms. This was why the house was only 1 story, because all the rooms fit on 1 floor, and the rooms themselves were very spacious, taking up over half the house. There is no bathroom in this house. Interesting. "What's in the bag?" Joey asked excitedly after he ran around the entire house excited about a new environment. Yuri stood in the sitting room observing all of the weapons. She even tested some of the blades. Their grandfather stood in the kitchen taking inventory of all of the food and supplies that were in there. The 2 of them were where they felt most comfortable amongst things they knew almost everything about. "I took the things to all of you and put them in this bag. I'm curious if I did all right. Would you mind telling me how I did?" Daisuke asked the boy. Joey's eyes grew even bigger in excitement. "Really?" he asked, jumping up and down in excitement. Joey jumped for the bag, but Daisuke closed it too quickly. "Wait, I forgot my manners." "Hey!" Joey crossed his arms and pouted. Daisuke ignored him and took the bag to Yuri, where he dropped it off at her feet. "Would you like to look for your things?" Why does she get to go first?" Joey shouted, still crossing his arms. "Ruka, you're very distracting." "Yes, you. Coming up? Come on. Come on. This. Now I can continue." Okay. Why does she get to go first? Joey cried, still crossing his arms. He huffed and plopped down on his butt in anger. "Ladies always go first," Daisuke answered him with a wink. Joey looked away, putting his nose in the air. Oh, little boys. Yuri eyed Daisuke as she bent down to look inside of the bag of what was left of their former life. "Thanks, but my brother could have gone first. Such manners are wasted on me," she informed him. "Where did I put this stuff?" "Oh yeah, you guys all need a room to stay in, don't you?" Daisuke observed. He scratched his chin in thought and made inventory of which rooms he had left for them to stay in. "And there's a room or 2 that are off limits, but there's plenty of room for you guys. If you see a shape that has a color on it on the door, please leave that room alone. But otherwise, take your pick." Thank you, Yuri said with a serious look on her face. She'll take the best room, Joey whined. Don't worry, Yuri said, patting her brother's head reassuringly. Stop! I will only take my own things. Good, Joey said, not uncrossing his arms. He still eyed her suspiciously. Yuri pulled the bag up and walked out over to the kitchen. Go somewhere else, her grandfather said kindly, glancing up at her. Go ahead and find yourself a room and put your stuff in there, Daisuke offered. Yuri sighed, but she went down the hallway with all the rooms. She passed by a couple doors that had emblems that were colored in on them as Daisuke had mentioned. Blah. She stopped at a room with a single window, looking out the garden shed that was over top of the river. Once inside the room, there was a dresser against the wall to the left of the door. Just beside the dresser was a small space that opened into a tiny closet. A feather-down bed was up against the wall just under the window. There was a small table that sat on the right side of the bed with an unused candle atop it. Yuri liked how simple it was. She felt at home instantly. Yuri looked over her shoulder to make sure no one had followed her down the hall. Then she quietly closed the door to her new room. The first thing her fingers found in the bag was her father's sword. She could feel the familiarity of the hilt before she even saw it. She knew how to use the weapon quite well for a 16-year-old girl. Yuri was shocked to discover 2 dresses that Daisuke had grabbed in his hurry. She turned and hung them gingerly in the closet, staring at them for a moment. This was a pitiful amount of things. She had a sword and 2 dresses. Wasn't very much, but at least they were comfortable and safe. Here, she said as she dropped the bag at Joey's feet, and then went back to the sitting room to observe the weapons once again. Yay! Joey shouted, running down the hall with a still pretty full bag. Be careful with that bag, Joey. I believe there are breakables in there, Yuri warned him. I will, Joey called back from the hallway. Seconds later, a door opened and closed, and then there was relative silence. Sometimes I forget just how young that boy really is, Yuri's grandfather said suddenly from the kitchen. I don't, Yuri murmured as she looked after where her brother had gone through. Joey scampered down the hall, slamming the door behind him. Thank you, thank you, thank you, he said excitedly, dancing around Daisuke as he held up a flute in his tiny hands. What is that, Yuri? Joey? What is that, Yuri asked. Yuri asked him, grabbing the boy's wrist. It's Mother's flute, Joey said with a big grin on his face. Yuri looked at it for herself, and sure enough, it was her mother's old flute. It was simple enough, made out of silver and worn with use, but it still played as beautifully as it did when their mother was still alive. Yuri let go of Joey and turned away. Put it away, she murmured, walking away, and give the bag to grandfather. Joey's face fell. Okay, he said sadly, and walked back to his room with his shoulders sagging all the way there. He came back with the bag and gave it to his grandfather, looking at the ground the entire time. His grandfather smiled and tousled his hair, trying to get the boy to smile back at him. It's not very much, but I tried to save as much as I possibly could, Daisuke said apologetically, as the old man rummaged through the bag. He was hoping to dispel the awkwardness that had filled the room. You did more than enough, my boy, the grandfather assured him as he quickly closed the bag up, not needing to pull anything out. How does that flute of yours sound? Daisuke asked Joey, curiously trying to get the boy to cheer up. Do you know how to play? Joey asked excitedly, hoping to have himself a new teacher and always more than happy to share. Yeah, you're getting your vest put back on. No, but I have a friend that can play very well. He knew just about anything there was to know about playing a flute, Daisuke said, smiling down at the boy. I only learned some from him, but if you would like, I can teach you what I know. Joey walked up and down, hardly able to contain his excitement. I always love an opportunity to learn, he said excitedly. He then frowned and looked around before beckoning Daisuke closer. I think Yuri doesn't like me playing very much. She seems to always get really mad, he whispered. I really don't think that's what it is. Daisuke looked over at Yuri, meeting her bright pink gaze. He's just got pink eyes. She immediately looked away with a frown on her face. Why would you think that? Joey looked at Daisuke with wide eyes, but then looked down and grabbed his flute from where he had hidden it in his shirt. Well, he glanced over at Yuri, who wouldn't even look at him. She always tells me to put it away when she sees me holding it. Or if I actually do play it, she always leaves the room. It was Daisuke's turn to look at Yuri once again. but she was determined not to look anyone in the eye. "Why don't you play for me, then? And I'll let you know if it's any good," he suggested with a smile. "Are you sure? I don't know if I should," Joey said, still looking nervously at Yuri again. Okay, just making sure the cat's not gonna surprise attack me. Daisuke studied Yuri. He knew that she wouldn't like Joey playing his flute, but he felt letting the boy play was better than keeping her comfortable. "Go ahead," he said, with an encouraging smile to Joey. He sat down in the kitchen so he could get a good seat for the boy's performance. Joey's lips quivered, still unsure of whether or not he should play. "I don't know." He blushed and stared at Yuri as if pleading for permission, his father's mud-brown eyes making her look away. "I would love to hear you play myself," his grandfather encouraged, taking a seat next to Daisuke to give his grandson his undivided attention. Yuri was still looking at the weapons, but her body was tensed up, hoping that the boy wouldn't play his flute. "All right." Joey cautiously brought the flute to his lips and began to play. The notes chimed out in a beautiful melody that brought comfort to the room. The only song that Joey knew was Yuri's favorite song, but it was the song that their mother had sung to them every night before bed. Daisuke listened with a happy heart, but could see that Yuri was not in a comforted state. It didn't take her long to leave the house and away from the music. "Keep playing," he told Joey, as the boy stopped when his sister left. "The song is quite lovely." He then walked out the door to find Yuri outside. Their grandfather was beginning to nod off from his long day. Daisuke could hear her hitting Daisuke could hear her hitting a practice dummy before he could see her. The moon was full, illuminating her small frame as she hit the dummy as hard as she could. She shouted every time she hit the dummy, furiously trying to keep her emotions under control. She was failing, but she still fought the rebellious tears back. "What's the matter with you?" Daisuke asked, approaching the fence to look in on her while she worked. "I see that you don't like that song. But must you be so dramatic about it?" "Mind your own business!" Yuri shouted at him as she kept hitting the dummy. "Why do you feel you have to be strong? You're clearly upset right now," Daisuke said to her conversationally. Yuri sighed and sank to the ground, breathing heavily from hitting the dummy one too many times. "I have to be strong for my little brother," she breathed. "I know you're in pain, but shouldn't you be more encouraging to your brother?" Daisuke asked. "That's none of your business," Yuri warned him. "You need to talk to someone about what's going on with you, or else you'll never be able to fully heal," Daisuke said, walking into the draining area to sit next to Yuri. "Butt out. It's none of your business," Yuri said to him, scooting away from him. "Just tell me why you can't just let him play his music. He clearly wants to play it for you," Daisuke said to her. Yuri looked at him with a frown on her face. "Why is it so important for you to know why I can't stand it?" "Because I can help you feel better about it," Daisuke said to her. Yuri snorted. "A little confident, aren't we?" Daisuke crossed his arms and stared down at her. "Then tell me, and I'll prove it." Yuri gritted her teeth in annoyance. She wanted to just be left alone. "All my life, my parents have told me I have to be strong. When they died, my mother's last words to me were I had to be strong for my little brother. Even when I can't take it when he is playing this song that she used to play for us all the time. It makes me feel like I'm drowning in sorrow, and I just can't do anything to change how it makes me feel." "I'm fairly certain that your brother can handle you having a small meltdown," Daisuke said to her. "How would you know?" Yuri snapped at him. "If I broke down in front of my brother, nothing would be done. No, I have to stay up and about so that we can continue on in this life with very little problems." Daisuke entered the practice ring and went over to where she was sitting on the ground and indicated he would like to sit too. She shrugged and waited. He sat down next to her and looked at the ground for a second, thinking. "I once knew a man who reminds me of you." "Oh, really?" Yuri asked, raising an eyebrow. "If you don't mind, I can tell you about him," Daisuke offered. "Oh, let me guess. This is supposed to make me feel better," Yuri said to him, crossing her arms and rolling her eyes. Daisuke cleared his throat and winked at her, making Yuri shake her head. There was once a boy who always had trouble keeping up with everyone else in his group of boys he played with. "Why is this supposed to make me feel better?" Yuri asked skeptically. "Just let me tell my story and you will see where I'm going with this," Daisuke informed her patiently. "Fine." Yuri sighed and lay down in the grass, ready to hear this amazing story that Daisuke was going to tell her. The group of boys all considered this one boy unfit to be an official member of their group. Oftentimes, they would throw him into the mud or laugh at him just because he wasn't able to do what the rest of them could do. One day, when this boy was being pushed into the dirt, a boy from a different group came over and helped him up. The ones in the group knew this boy and backed away. He was a very strong boy who was better than anyone. They didn't care why he wanted this one boy or why he even cared about him. They only knew that it was better to stay out of his way for their own safety. The strong boy took the weak boy to his group, as the weak boy looked at the ground in shame. "Why?" the weak boy asked. "Why do I have to be so weak?" He began to cry. The strong boy looked at him with a smile across his face. "Everyone is weak sometimes," he said wisely. "You're not weak," the weak boy said, with a frown on his face. "In fact, I've heard that everyone in your group is strong." With these words spoken, the group laughed. "What did I say?" the boy asked, feeling awkward at the laughter. The stronger boy put his hand on the weaker boy's shoulder. "The reason we are all strong is the fact that we only share when we're weak with each other," he said. "What does that mean?" the weaker boy asked, still unsure of what the stronger boy was saying. "It's okay to be weak, but there are times when you have to be strong for others. After you've held back your fears and after you've exhausted yourself beyond repair, it's okay to tell the people who will understand. The people who care about you know when you need their support." The stronger boy gestured to his group of friends. "That's our secret to being the strongest, and we only share that with the people we truly want to join us," the stronger boy said. Daisuke finished his story. "So you see, it's okay to show that you're vulnerable around the people that care about you. If you're hurting, it's okay to let all of us know. So tell Joey that his music is beautiful, but the reason you don't like it is because it's painful for you to hear your mother's music." Yuri sat there staring at him before getting up and brushing herself off. "Either you're super creepy or super strange. But either way, thanks, I guess," she said with a small smile. "It is more difficult than it sounds, though," Daisuke warned her. "I figured," Yuri snorted. "It took me a while to understand how to do it," Daisuke sighed, staying on the ground. "How old are you?" she asked him out of curiosity. Daisuke thought for a moment while he was counting on his fingers. I think I might be 20, he answered, still counting. "You don't know how old you are?" Yuri asked, looking at him in shock. She sat back down on the ground. "I can't believe it. There was a lot of stuff going on at one point in time, so I couldn't keep track of my age very well," Daisuke said to her. He closed his eyes in concentration as he continued to count. He opened his eyes and chuckled. "Yes, I'm 20. "You're so weird," she said, and started to laugh with him. Her grandfather and brother had been watching from the doorway in pure concern, but smiled when they saw her laughing. "It's good to see her laughing again," their grandfather said. "I was beginning to think she didn't know how to," Joey added, making his grandfather chuckle. Yay! Chapter 2 is done! Next time we'll be doing Chapter 3, An Injured Old Friend. Yay! Oh, goodness, sorry, excuse me, it's morning. Anyway, yeah, I'm so excited to get further on. I don't know if there's a noticeable difference between the rough draft and the final draft, but I mean, both are in the channel, so. But yeah, this is going to be up on my channel for, I don't know, probably a couple of days. And then I'm going to switch it over to herbology, which I guess I could put a link to the description below, along with a link to this book if you are interested in buying it. I promise it's a good book. It's better than Not a Dream, so if you've watched my Not a Dream series or read the book, then you should enjoy Emblem Nights because it's better. But yeah, anyway, hopefully I will see you guys next time. Bye!